I got a couple of these. That's interesting. You can show the move there. And, at least one of us people. Hey. You go, what's that? You want a hot seat? You go? Yeah. Love them. Yeah. Amazing. Easy. Yeah, need some real office here, isn't it? What's that? Need some real office here, isn't it? How you do it? Usually don't. Yeah. So standard deal days.
Tristan.
Molly. How are you? I can't help myself.
Yeah, right, exactly. Ah, goodness. Hello, everybody. We opened today with a closed session so that Amy could bring us up to speed on the collective bargaining that is currently underway with ASME. No votes were taken. It was an update. Can I have a motion to seal the minutes? A second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Now we go back to our open session. One thing I wanted to say, which is entirely selfish, is that I have been a UConn basketball fan since I was probably 4, and I really want to watch that game tonight. And it starts at 8:50, so I'm going to be watching the clock tonight. Is there any public comment tonight? No. Is everybody taking a look at the consent agenda? Hi, Tristan. Did everybody look at the consent agenda?
I do. I have a couple of quick.
Great.
When you're ready.
Go to it.
On the comprehensive, is that on there? I think that's
separate.
Never mind.
Question, I was wondering if Nick could just explain the Violet Connolly thing.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, everybody.
How are you, man?
Good, you?
Did you happen to hear Molly?
I missed it. I don't know if Molly's.
Molly was asking if you could describe what the changes to the Violette Connolly consent agreement.
I think that was something James Callahan was running point on. Amy might have better, a more updated update than I do, so I defer to Amy at this time.
I'll do that pretty quick. So this is the consent order that we discussed, I would say almost for about 18 months, that has the effect of codifying the actual site plan as constructed. If you think back to the previous consent order, it had a site plan that showed 4 units on the Thomas original foundation.
Right.
We ended up building 2 and 2. And so none of the terms and conditions of that previous consent order were changed, but we did update language that reflects the as-built site plan. So that was the goal, was to codify into the record what we actually built, describe it accurately in the consent order so that people looking back on the record didn't wonder why there was a disconnect.
Okay, that was sort of what I thought it was. But so does this also correct for the back building, which was approved in one direction and built in the other direction? Is that all, this cleans all that up too?
That's a zoning issue, which has also been cleared up.
Okay.
But yes,
so
this reflects what was.
All right, thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
But this also does identify in here that the separate unit will be follow the same agreement as the Thomas house with the 2 buildings, first going to police officers and so forth. So that's changed in here, which was, the wording was in there, but it wasn't, it was referring to the Thomas House. So that clarifies.
It's a clarification.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of that, and I'd like to vote on this separately because I'm not in favor of it. And I know
Okay.
that,
Let's pull it off and we'll
okay,
do.
thank you.
Yep, no worries. Can I have a motion on the,
Just got, since we're cruising
Yeah.
along here, I got one easy one on the Boy Scout property, just a review for myself. Is this similar to Salt Pond settlements? We have land trust, the town and the Boy Scouts? Or am I mistaken? Is it solely the Boy Scout lot?
Just the Boy Scouts. Yes. I'm not sure, quite sure what the question was, though. Were you asking who
So-
owns the property?
Yeah, I thought.
No, it's just the Boy Scouts.
Strictly?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus the Violette Connolly settlement agreement? Second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Now let's take up the modified consent order for Violette, the Violette Connolly and Thomas property. Can I have a motion to approve that modified consent order?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Discussion.
Is there discussion?
Yeah, I don't want to change the path this is on. I know where it's where it's at. I feel that we gave up a management right on the housing. I think that could have been challenged on this. That ship has sailed. I think it's where we are. I just want the record to reflect that, I'm in objection to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Bill?
Aye, no.
Discuss and act on board, commission, and committees. The first item is to establish an Old Harbor Dock Advisory Board. Amy, do you and Kate want to do that? Or Kate, do you want to do that? Or Amy, do you
Right,
want to do
Kate.
that? Great. Hi, Kate.
Hi,
Good to see you tonight.
good evening. So, some of the Old Harbor slip permit holders have approached me to express their concerns, particularly regarding the slip usage requirements. As you all know, our year-round fishing fleet has shifted to where they can more supplement their income as opposed to fishing year-round. That's due to fishing regulations and evolving lifestyles. The harbor management plan is up for review in 2028, and the Old Harbor Dock policy is part of this document. And I would like to gather as much feedback as I can, especially from the people that it is going to affect. So we're prepared to present our harbor management plan to CRMC for their approval on time, and that this can be updated. The Harbors Committee would like to create this advisory board whose main purpose is to provide input and advice to the Harbors Committee specifically on policy requirements and capital improvement projects of the commercial and charter dock. As of right now, there are 9 commercial and 6 slip holders, charter slips. They will meet 4 times a year with an annual term for the 5-person membership. I would like those to include people with historic knowledge, but also those that have the ambition to keep our commercial fishing fleet on Block Island.
So Kate, we're basically talking the Red Breakwell dock, that one over there with, is that what you're talking about mainly, or?
That is the commercial dock, and then there are 6 slips right in front of the office.
Like where?
Where Bobby-
And a couple of charter
yeah.
fishing guys?
Correct.
And so that's what you want them to focus on, the review as to what's the.
What are the regulations? How many days are they required to go out? What are they showing for fishing? If they're part-time, if they're full-time, changing up the schedule of fees.
So is there a current document that they would be revising? Like Like when we.
It's in the harbor management plan as it is. Right now, yes, there is a
So they
document.
would be taking what exists and revising it.
Reviewing it and giving advisory ideas to the harbors committee, who will then vote on those ideas and fee schedule changes.
So this committee, the way you envision it, would this be like a committee that terminates once that document is turned into you and like?
I don't know, there has been one in the past, years ago, that I've been told of. I think this will help me, and it will keep all of them intact.
all
What,
of-
what isn't
All
harbors?
of the permit holders.
So are you picturing that the permit holders would be the board?
I think there's some of them that have interest in being part of the board.
Kate, do you think 5 is enough to get a full representation between, because you have some commercial fishing guys, you have, like I said, the people that do like what Bobby does, the parasail and so forth, the mix, so you have a good representation of, because it's not just commercial fishing, it's really like a mix of 3 or 4 different things.
I think so, and I'd also like to have somebody who does not have a slip.
Sure.
And
That's why I'm asking, is 5?
I think so. I think it's adequate. I would also ask that the appointments come from you, as I think that if it's put onto the Harbors Committee to choose these persons, it might be a little biased.
So normally we respond to letters that are written in. So
Yep, I've notified them all that if they have an interest, to just please send me a letter, and we'll get those to Millie.
Well, I don't have an objection to it come from us or the bias thing, but I think we also need to kind of know, we need a little guidance on some of the people also. As far as for what they represent, whether they're representing fish and whether they're representing the commercial aspect and so forth. So I think some recommendations of the names put forward, I think would be helpful based on,
From the Harbors Committee?
well, I don't know.
I'm also
I don't know
wondering-
so much how, even from Kate, from
So-
yourself.
I also want to go backwards a second here and talk about the options of not having another board. Like you see the list of how hard it is to get people to serve on a board. We announce it every month. So in that respect, I'm a little hesitant to create another board. So I'm wondering, is this something that the Harbors Committee could do?
Absolutely, and
be
these
included.
individuals that are having concerns can come to a Harbors Committee meeting and present their ideas, and it can be put onto an agenda and it can be voted on.
So why don't we just do that?
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm lukewarm.
The idea was presented to me, so I am here to,
Oh, yeah, no, I have no problem with the presentation of
No,
the
no,
idea.
yeah.
I'm just saying, like, creating another board feels sort of self-destructive. I mean, because we have so many boards that are hard to fill, I don't want to create one more board that, when your board, if the people who are concerned about this could come to the board meetings, I don't know. Could that work?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I'm lukewarm on this. When you have a harbors committee that is functioning, well-staffed, you have a competent harbor master. If you want to solicit, if those folks want to speak, I guess I'm not quite sure what we're after here. If David Lewis is fishing commercially and has some concerns about the future of Old Harbor Dock, don't we have a mechanism for that in our ordinance? And actually, I think I think we're actually required statutorily to have it. I don't know. So David, go to the damned Harbor Committee meetings. Oh, did you?
Kate,
Oh,
this came from the Harbors Committee had requested this? Or was
It came from members who approached the Harbors Committee,
members of,
the community.
so do these members of the community come to your meetings?
Sometimes.
Okay, so maybe they could.
And they're not here tonight.
questions?
They're not here tonight.
There we go.
And they're not here tonight to articulate the
Come to your
need for
meetings
this.
more often, and we could try that. And then if you feel like that's not being productive, we could come back at this.
And you know what, Kate? If they're asking the town council to take action on creation of a new board to suit them, they should come and ask. Shouldn't just be your job, in my opinion. You know, I think you do an extraordinary job, and have done. If there's a real compelling need for something like this, okay, but I haven't. We have a mechanism, and why do we have to have a separate mechanism for 9 slips in Old Harbor? I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
I'm struggling with
When
that.
so
I'm happy to hear it, but I'm struggling.
Or if it was something specialized,
Yeah.
you know.
I'd like to second that and say that I think you're doing a great job, but I also think that we struggled with the Harbors Committee for a while with membership and not having a
Yeah.
quorum, and I feel like you guys are back on your feet. Am I incorrect there? Have you got a quorum?
Not all winter. And then it's crazy in the summertime, but I do believe that they're going to try and meet over the summertime also. So
Okay.
whether I'm there or not, I do not have to be present. I present my report every month to them. So if they have something that they need to talk to me specifically about, I try and attend.
Okay, so I guess then I would say if you're struggling to get, if you're still struggling to get a quorum at the Harbors meetings, then I'm like more reluctant to create an offshoot board. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think we should concentrate on your board and hopefully pull that in. And then like, if there's somebody on your board who can't make meetings, then we could replace them with somebody who's interested in Old Harbor. Does that make more sense? Yep. I don't know.
So can we not take action on this? If there's a group of people who would like the town council to take this step, I'd love to hear from them and find out why and what. And I don't know how you guys feel about it. I don't feel especially compelled on this.
What are the issues from those members
Yeah,
of the community?
right.
It's too bad they're not here,
Yeah,
you know, to help if they're
I feel bad. It ain't you. Bye, Kate. Thank you for the Swedish fish. All right. Acknowledge Alicia's resignation. And then next meeting, we'll put that vacancy on. Or is it on here and I read over it?
No, it's not on there, so I'll add.
So for the next meeting, or, our next meeting, it's appropriate, but I know how busy Alicia is with all kinds of things in her life and really appreciate the fact that she stepped up. I also, one of the reasons I really liked Alicia's application is that, to me, this age-friendly community task force needs a diversity of ages too, because some of us are there, some of us are aging into it, some of us are thinking about aging into, so I think the more diverse, the better, is my opinion, age-wise. It's a really important community issue. Allison's doing a great job, I think, really sort of moving this ball. And I'm sure there will be interest, but I think a diversity of ages is valuable. We have openings on motor vehicles for hire, a non-licensee. That may get easier. Old Harbor Task Force, Police Advisory, Sewer District, Water District, and we will not be doing Old Harbor Dock Advisory. So, next we have to do a public hearing on one of those zoning ordinances we talked about at our work session a couple of weeks ago. So can I have a motion to go in, open the public hearing, please? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. We're now in public hearing. I don't know whether this is you, Amy, or Peter, or...
So Peter cannot be with us tonight, so it is me. We did walk through this at a work
Yes.
session with the planning
Yep.
board. And this is a combination of alignment with the state statute and then also some acknowledgement of the more unique housing arrangements on Block Island. I do have it's actually two amendments that came from Peter. He had mentioned this when we met previously. I'm looking at 304C. Give you all a minute there.
Yep. Is heated?
No.
No, that's
It's-
202.
This is
Sorry.
for households with all household plumbing drains connected to public sewer.
Yes.
Household occupancy is limited to, it says 8 people per shower and 10 people per water closet. The building code has an additional limitation that restricts those to 6 people per shower and 6 people per water closet. So his recommendation would be to amend that further to reflect what's already a narrower definition in the building code.
So household occupancy would be limited to 6 people or fraction thereof per shower in good working order, and 6 people or fraction thereof per water closet in good working order.
Correct.
Instead of 10.
Instead of 8 and 10.
And would we also have not to exceed 12 people per household? Or?
Nope, not to exceed 16 per household still
Gotcha.
is accurate.
Okay.
But I didn't know if people had other questions I can try to answer.
Yeah, I had one. On B, and like I said, just as I read through this, B says that a bedroom is limited to 2 people per bedroom. So if there's a room that is a decent sized bunk room or whatever it might be, that you couldn't have 3 beds in it, correct?
I was going to say, we went through this on short-term rental, and I have this bizarre little expertise on that. That's what the state OWTS septic rules, that's how they define a bedroom. It's, that's how they define how much septic you need, by defining it as 2 people per bedroom. We're not trying to say, we have a 4-bedroom house. We did this. Susan and I stayed in our bedroom, and our 4 kids lived in a bunk room.
Right.
We're not trying to do that. We're just saying our reg is the same as the state reg when it comes to septic.
So it is based on the OWTS design,
Yeah.
which is 2 people per bedroom.
But that's not what this says. This says 2 people per bedroom. So for instance, at the Coast Guard station, we have 3 people in one room, correct? And by
Are
the
we
letter
on
of-
304B?
304B.
Yes.
So
Listen, I get it, and I agree. If it said that if there are 3 bedrooms, there may be no more than
Household occupancy.
occupancy of 6 people.
Household occupancy is
Right.
limited to 2 people per bedroom.
2
So
people per bedroom.
household occupancy consistent with OWTS design is limited to 2 people per bedroom.
So so this is talking about the occupancy relating to
The
bedrooms.
household.
So if I have 3 bedrooms, I could have 6 people. All 5 could sleep in one room and one in the other. As long as
Exactly.
that's clear from that, because I know like at the Coast
That's
Guard-
exactly
Yeah.
right.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Using the Coast Guard station as an example, if we have a room that has 3 people, we also have a room that has 1 person.
Or that's what they're saying.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
multiply the number of bedrooms times 2 people, and that's the total number of people, in the
Yeah.
community, regardless if they sleep on the porch or in a bedroom.
Doesn't.
Right.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
as long as it's laid
Yep.
out, that
Yep.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
Any other questions about this one? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Would somebody like to make a motion to approve this new reg
As amended.
ordinance as amended? Yes, thank you.
I would make the motion to approve it as amended.
All those any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Millie. It's again keeping the Block Island Times in business. That was like. That's,
Won't even mention.
You got the centerfold for the last few weeks.
Right.
What's the date for this one?
May 5th.
May 5th. Okay. Just remember, guys, this is the conforming our ordinances to the state statute regarding motor vehicles for hire.
So the draft, I don't know if it's a draft or what we received, that was from either Nick or James, correct?
Yes, James.
James had sent that. And so that he's saying that what that is, that's suggested for us to be in compliance. And that's what we're having the
Right,
hearing.
this is having us complete.
Exactly. Exactly. So what's the date again? May 5th? Can I have a motion to schedule this for a public hearing on May 5th? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The
So-
ayes have it.
Will the scope of this be just that, or is it, you know? what I'm
As far as
saying?
I'm
Just trying
concerned,
to-
that's all it should be.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. But yeah, as James drafted it, Nick, you get a free ride again because it was James's.
I think that's my meeting, so I think I have about a month to do some homework. But to answer Bill's question, the proposal before you this evening that will be acted on at a public hearing should be the scope of it. That's what's before the council that night. That will be your discussion. That's what you'll take a vote on.
And I only say that because, so it's clear to everybody, if there's another suggestion, whatever, there will be an opportunity we could do also, but just so everyone is clear what the scope is beforehand, I think will be helpful.
I totally agree, and I think we should make sure we're repeating that. But item 7, discuss an act sending the lighting ordinance back to the planning board to rework and cancel the May 5th public hearing. Molly, I can't remember whether you were here for the work session we did with planning, but Tristan and Bill and I were, and it was I actually thought that meeting was really helpful. I thought it was a great meeting on a whole range of things, but it was very clear that the likelihood that the existing draft would have a majority of support on the council was pretty limited. Not to say that the council was unwilling to consider real, I think I used the phrase stones in your shoe, you know, so we assuming that all 4 of us agree, I'd like to make a motion to send the ordinance back for rework and cancel the public hearing that we had scheduled for May 5th. Second?
Second.
Discussion, Molly? You look like you're about to say something.
The only thing I have to say is that I did listen to that meeting and that there are some people who need to use their microphones more carefully because it's really hard to hear you guys.
Let me know if it's me, because I'm working really
Move
close.
in your way.
Really? Well, I got this thing almost in my
It was
throat.
weird to listen to those meetings.
I will, just to follow up what you were saying, Keith, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's why I think there are some, what we had talked about, it wasn't a matter of saying, hey, we weren't, with I think they need to refine tune it a little bit and just take another look. So I
Yes.
appreciate their efforts.
Yes. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no? Oh, did you have some?
No.
I'm sorry, man.
I'm good, I'm good.
Gotta slug me in the face.
Use the microphone.
All right then. Comprehensive plan update.
Yeah. So we did finally, thanks to Millie, get that out to bid, which was great.
Thank you, Millie.
We had 4 responses, which was also really exciting. We had 4 very qualified responses. This was an RFQ, so we're evaluating primarily based on experience and qualifications. We did have some language in there that said, cost could be a factor for equally qualified firms. Again, all very highly qualified. At the end of the day, we had a 3-person group evaluating those responses, myself, Jen Brady, and Margie, who's the chair of the planning board. And the recommendation is to engage Weston and Sampson to perform the comprehensive plan update. And you can see the cost down at the bottom of their proposal, $118,135.
Amy, what were the bids? Did the 4 bids come at?
They ranged between 60 and 155.
155 was the highest,
Yes.
and this was 118. And so why is it, any idea why there's such a discrepancy in the bids? I mean, obviously the 60 seems to be way off from the others. You 30 or 40,000. Was there any,
I wouldn't say that any of them were out of line. Some
Right.
people were more hungry for work, I think. And others relied a little bit more on outside contractors. They all have some elements that they sub out or partner with other firms to do. So that's not unusual. I can't really give you a more detailed
Yeah.
answer than that. Again, our first
I was just curious why, like, in other words, when you, certainly the 60, you say, why is that? On the others, I just didn't know if it was the scope or like you said, maybe it was how it got bid out, that's all. And I don't know if that was the same way with I don't have a problem with what was selected. I was just, when you see 60 up to 160,000, you think, wow, that's a big spread. Did they interpret that wrong, or is it just the size of the firm?
some variation in their work approach and how much they rely on, say, mapping or facilitating community discussion or, things like that. So there is some difference in their strategy.
Can I ask a question about, can I ask a question about Weston and Sampson? Because they were retained by the state to help, I guess, multiple towns was town government satisfied with the work that they did?
Yes.
Yes.
Having known more than one of the bidders, it was an opportunity to evaluate known quantities
Yes.
against their work product and know what
Okay.
you're getting for.
Okay, great.
So I feel like we are likely to work where we will be working with some of the same principles with
Good.
Weston and Sampson, and we're looking forward to that.
See, it was not clear to me through that process I think their role doing that was to represent the people who are paying them. And I hope we get that level of engagement from them on behalf of Block Island in this very important document, because there were times where I almost felt like there were sometimes inadequate, in my opinion, at some of the planning board meetings, and I went to most of them on these ordinances. We say it at every meeting about something. We're weird, and understanding that is really, really important. This is not a cookie cutter. So anyway, just felt like if town government, which you know, Jen Brady and Karen and you know those folks and most of all you were satisfied with their work, then that's plenty for me.
You need a motion?
Yes, please.
Do we ever?
Right? We need a motion on this?
Yes.
Yes.
Let me make a motion to award the contract as recommended by the town manager.
So second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. All right. Can
I ask a question?
of course you can.
Would it be okay with you guys if we reordered the agenda a little bit? Just, we have the budget next, but Dylan is here for sewer. I'm wondering if, could we just, I don't know if maybe I'm off base. Could we drop number 8 on the agenda to 12 and then like do the other things first?
I mean,
Does that cause a problem for anybody? Oh, all right. I didn't realize it. Oh, no worries, no worries. Okay,
I get what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it sounds like
no problem.
you need someone to be here. Someone else to be here.
Be nice.
I am here to answer any questions. I do believe that tonight are we on this part of the agenda? Should I even continue?
It's okay.
Is it?
We're-
I can answer any questions. I believe this is for your information only. I think we're repurposing and refocusing the agenda item to just continue to keep you in the know and for transparency to the public as well.
Great. Thank you, Dylan.
That-
What do you guys think?
Do you want to wait and see Pete? Are
Well,
you
he's
expecting
waiting
Pete
for
to
someone.
talk?
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no.
I was just trying to speed it up that way.
All right, can I have a motion to open the budget public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. We are having a public, the budget hearing is now open. Annie, did you come here to speak on the budget? Is there, you guys look like you're concerned.
Multitasking.
Oh, multitasking. Okay, great. All right, if there's no one who would like to speak at the public hearing, can I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no.
So Keith, can I take the chance for just some updates then on the budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna talk budget now. I just need to get through.
We can do it after. the-
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah. So one change that will reflect in the version that we give you on Thursday would then be the adjustment for the comp plan, which
Mhm.
is pretty close, but a little bit of about $2,000. And then I also shared with all of you a proposed work plan as it relates to the Coast Guard Station project. And you don't need to digest all of that now, but it does sort of break out. Given about $1.5 million in total cost, how that work is likely to split across the 4 years. So all of that is obviously subject to bidding, but they're trying to put together a work plan that allows it to be occupied throughout the summer. So you get in, you do some work, you get back out, and scheduling and sequencing that in a way that makes sense.
This does the scope of the work is, but what I was looking for from the budget standpoint was what is budget anticipated off each set of the project?
So each year has
No.
what we
okay.
can fit into those dollars.
Again, I'm saying we came up with a 365. 365 is based off of the asbestos survey abatement is going to be, we're anticipating 25,000. The temporary, those broken down, how you come up with that. I think the work is all great.
Sure.
But in other words, how do we come up with that number for each one?
And that's been a little trickier because we're trying to talk to the contractors who we also want to bid, and that's a very short pool. So I can tell you that we're not there yet on a lot of the bigger construction line items because the numbers that we have are in aggregate. So this is, okay, the total work is going to be $1.5 million and then breaking it down from there as opposed to building up from the bottom. We have to break down from the total. And that's where we're getting into sequencing. So I can give you a number for electrical, but it's a little bit irrelevant right now because that electrical really needs to be executed in 3 to 4 stages. And that's where we're still refining the year by year breakdown. So this is the work that we can likely fit and sequence in each year and still fit within the dollars, but I don't have a breakdown by year because that's really getting pretty refined in the bid process at this point.
But when you do a budget, usually you budget say, okay, we want to do these 10 things.
Yep.
We have to have a general idea of what each one comes up to, how we come up with that number. I guess my concern is I don't like the idea of just being, hey, here's a set number, without, how do we come to that number? How do we come to that 365 on this as opposed to this is here, go get as much done as you can. I think I don't have a problem with the number that's budgeted. I like the plan. I like how it's going over the 3. But I think that when we have the 365 saying, okay, this is why we expect it, that anticipate is. Now, I'm not saying that asbestos budget might come in $5,000 less. I'm not saying locked into that line item is only 4,000. I know there's some movement, but I just like, there's some things like, you take the mini split in an apartment, there can be a budgeting number for these that come up.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. So,
we're still working through that refinement.
right. Well, and my concern is then if we're working through it because we got to where we're now, when we have our future budgets coming in, I'd like to see those numbers before we allocate the number to it. I like it. I'll say this, and I brought it up at the last meeting. I'd like to see us have a maintenance plan that goes forward and the work's being done. And this is exactly what I was talking about. This is identifying what it is. So I think we're totally heading in the right direction. I just think it's I hate to see someone come back and say, oh, well, this cost 200,000, so we didn't get to these others. I'd like to see that number's kind of broken out a little bit with it. But I do like the direction that it's going in, and what we're expecting to get for each year on each thing. So.
I mean, as somebody who lives in an old house, everything turns out costing more than you think it's going to, especially once you take the wall down and see what you have. But I kind of think this is a practical way to do it. You have to start with something. I think the list of jobs here, having seen the building, looks pretty well defined as to what you want to have done. And I mean, in the end, we may have to break out into a 4th year. I don't know. I mean, I can't see that right now because that's not my expertise, but I think this looks like very achievable, what's here for the money. I mean, knowing how much we've spent recently doing projects, like, I get where you want it to be like a more exact thing, But I get like, from my lived experience, how it's impossible to make it an exact thing.
If you came to me and said, if I was doing your house saying, I want these 10 things done, you give a budgeting number, what you anticipate it may or may not be, and
Mhm.
that's how you come up with your budget. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that locked into that. I'm not saying you're locked into it, but usually we can say, okay, I have these down. I mean, it's not hard to come up with each one to say, well, the reason, because the mini splits would, we're talking in the range of $30,000, we're talking in the range of 20, whatever it be, and that's how we come up to it, as opposed to right now, it's, how did you come up with these? Because they need to be done, or because that's what fits in the dollar wise? And if it fits in the dollar wise, there had to be a mathematical equation that came up with it to that end of it, a budgeting. Not hard, fast, but a budgeting number that comes to it, that's all.
And then who presented this?
I'm
Tom?
sorry. Tom, yeah.
I guess I just a couple of questions on the basement. So are you putting in new bulkheads that change the manager's lower level access? What do you mean revive? Where's that going? Are you thinking of partition it off?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was wondering whether they're going to expand downstairs.
I mean, that could, I mean,
I don't believe expansion of use. I think it's just expansion for access.
Gotcha.
It's-
I was wondering because it's tiny. And they have
Yeah.
a baby, not a baby, more of a toddler.
Right.
Yeah, I don't believe we are expanding
Okay.
living space.
Yeah. So Tom hasn't submitted any numbers on these to you?
There are numbers in progress, and they're not in a form that we're ready to share with the council.
well, I guess why don't we do an RFP on this, the whole building on the remodel? From different, I mean, have you sent out any bids for, I mean, even for the electrical work? I mean, it's a whole new electric service in the whole building in stages, obviously. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
Phase one, bring it in from the street and then stop,
So that's part of year one,
right?
is develop the plans in order to submit for RFP and for building permits. If you put this out in a single RFP package, it's going to cost us a lot more.
Okay.
That's not how I would recommend staging this.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need to be able to use it in the summer.
We need to have a lot more control over when projects begin and end and how
Right.
much we take off in each chunk. We also can't financially commit to multi-year projects in a capital plan. So for all those reasons, we are doing 1 year at a time on this.
Right.
We just require all the departments, the police department, everyone else, to put together a budget when you ask for a number. We should do the same on this. A breakdown.
Thank you for this. We're finally, for the record, we're finally doing something substantial on the Coast Guard station, which I think is really important and valuable. Just which no one was disagreeing with. I didn't mean that we're.
Not at all.
I was just saying, as an aside,
No one
it's like
called
it is actually.
Last 15 years, we probably have the most momentum.
That's exactly right, Bill.
No, I love it.
More-
More broadly, I have a couple things. My notes, the housing survey, the idea of a housing survey, I liked. And I also wanted to go back and talk about, early learning center money, and if there's any way to go back at the idea of reformatting that to be used for union members' children. So those are my two. things that I had notes about.
I like continuing to talk about the early learning center and using potentially some of the town's contribution there to as an inducement. I actually think, and you know, we've talked about this as a council. This potential retirement bubble we have, I think we need to think pretty broadly around what are the things that would attract, you know, new employees, you know, earlier career employees to town government, and that's kind of you know that's one of those ideas. And I mean, I get the equity thing. Some people, you know, have kids who can use the early learning center. Some people don't. So fair, but I mean, I think, you know, it used to be that the strength of, you know, one of the recruiting strengths for municipal and state governments were the health insurance benefit. And when, you know, one of the things that changed with Obamacare, or what, you know, what the Affordable Care Act is, that was less of an inducement, you know, and who knows now with the appropriation struggles over that, maybe all of a sudden it becomes an inducement that you know that kind of went away. But there are those things that I think make public employment can make public employment attractive, and I think we should think broadly over the next year about what those kinds of things are, so that we're prepared.
I like both ideas. I think it's good. My only concern is, I think that when we get into their daily operation, where we give the funds and say, you have to spend it. I think that if we were to go this route, I think the route would be more if we have a set amount of money that we put aside that is separate. And I defer back over to Amy on this. Are we getting, you know, we give them, you know, a set.
Wait, you're talking about early learning center now?
Yeah, early learning center.
Okay.
You know, we give them, I like the concept you're saying, there being some, you know, it's incentive, it's a benefit, whatever it might be, and whether that be through negotiations, however it's done, or we had $5,000, and if they were, you know, we were able to do something from that end of it. But I think the money we give them, I mean, we give them a set amount of money, and we don't say how they have to spend that, just like the fire department and the
Medical center.
Yeah, the medical center. So I don't know if there's another way to achieve that, but without restricting or make the donation, but I'll defer over.
Yes, and yeah, you know, this has come up at least last year, if not twice before, and I think it's important to keep talking about and evolving a strategy. We don't have all the answers figured out yet as to how to make it work between the town and the ELC, and then between the town and the employees and the employee union, and that equity question. But I think it's something important to continue to talk about from, as Keith said, from a recruitment strategy, and trying to make sure that we're bringing people into the town government and providing resources that can support them as employees throughout that process. So I don't know exactly how to do it yet, but I think there are some things that we can work on as initial steps that probably won't start with a direct funding tie that says you have to, these dollars go directly to the earlier learning center for a certain child, but creating some incentives through the employee side, I think, would be the first step. And I think we can work on that, and simultaneously encourage the early learning center to do things like expand their hours, and meet employee needs in that way, to be a resource that has a lot of value for our staff and that they can rely on for that component.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, I think, there is that side of it too, where it's got to be an attractive benefit.
And
things
useful.
like hours
Yeah.
of operation matter. But I also think it, it could be as simple as saying we appropriate X dollars to Block Island Early Learning Center, and we appropriate X dollars to the Block Island Early Learning Center to, to allocate toward the children of town employees. I mean, it can be more than one bucket.
Mhm.
Right.
But
Last year we had to really just abandon this idea because there was so much chaos at the ELC. And it just felt like it was bringing more chaos down to talk about it. So we sort of dropped this, I sort of dropped this idea too last year. But so my question is, one of the things we talked about last year was that you were going to work with the ELC to see that they rewrote their bylaws and to bring them sort of more into conformance with a standard format. Has any of that happened?
Yes, and I would say one of our focuses was trying to get them to work on that. It was less about me telling them what to
Because you're
do and
part of the town.
more
Right.
sort of encouraging them as an organization to look at their own health. And I think you're seeing that momentum. I think you felt a little bit of a shift in their presentation to the council through the budget process. And I think the board is becoming more engaged as a typical board. I don't think they've passed too many bylaws changes yet, but I think that's still on their radar and something they're talking about in a more in the way that a healthy organization does. So I think they are making strides along that path of sort of rebalancing the organization, making sure they're hearing from and listening to their parents, and working out those communication channels and sort of getting back to a board director relationship that is a little more balanced.
It seemed that when their presentation, I guess I would defer to Keith and Tristan, their presentation this year seemed much more harmonious than it had in the past.
Yeah, that's not to say everything's been ironed out, but
Right.
I think they're working on it with more open eyes, maybe.
Right.
Have you been in the loop on some of this, Amy?
Yes. So, I think we all hear from the town's representative on the board through emails when they do meet. I also have been working with both the director and with the board chair directly. So I feel like I have a couple different touch points, which is helpful to make sure that everyone is circling around the same page.
So because you're working with them, do you think this would be the right time to make a move like this? Or you think this is something that we should put off one more year?
I don't think we're there yet for execution. I think we can spend the next year working on strategies that will implement more effectively. So if you said we have to do this right now, it's going to be rough for everybody. I think if we can talk about it for a year, talk about it between the town and the ELC, talk about it between the town and its employees, understand what those needs are too, because it's only useful if it's beneficial to them. That's something we can work on.
In Molly, another, to that end, I think, as I think it through, I wouldn't be so quick to necessarily give the money to the Learning Center, but if we had a pot of money that we had set aside so that if employee or someone took advantage of, they took advantage of it and we utilize it, but if they didn't, it doesn't just, so I think those are the kind of things we can talk about.
Right. It may be a matching contribution to tuition or something
Exactly.
like that.
That's sort of what I'm envisioning, right? That we have a town employee. It's very expensive to send a child. It's expensive to send a child to daycare anywhere. as I don't want to pick on them as being more or less expensive than anyone else, but, you know, we have town employees where that would be a perk for the job. And I think that that's an incentive to get somebody really talented to apply for a job. Maybe, especially if you're talking about like a parent who might not otherwise take the town job. Um, you know, it's just an added benefit and it gets a child into the early learning center that maybe isn't there already. So I think all of that's important. Um, and yeah, I think it would have to be, it would have to be two separate pots of money there. But if you think that next year is a better time frame, I'm just wondering, do we level fund or do we increase based on the fact that they haven't met? I mean, do you think they're going in the right direction, or do you think they met enough of the criteria that we set out last year?
I do think they're headed in the right direction. I do, and you might have missed this part. We didn't currently propose that we fund all of their request. All of the community support organizations and the school had 4% increases. So those
Right,
are
I saw that.
consistent across the organization, and they'll have to identify where the shortfall balances out of their own budget. So, you know, I just want to be clear that it's not a fully funded line because that was our strategy this year.
Right.
So,
And they requested more and they were aware of the number that we had budgeted and
yes,
they appeared that they could.
that they would make it work. Yeah.
Right.
I do want to just reinforce something that you raised, Amy, that I think is really important. In order for it to be an attractive benefit, it has to have the right hours and the right configuration of services so that, you know, if it's over at 2 and you have a job that goes until 4:30, that's you know, that's a real issue, and that's, you know, that takes working with the early learning center and having a sense probably among employees who don't necessarily, who, you know, I'm sure there are some that don't actually use the early learning center. And my bet is that a lot of it is logistics like that, you know. So, you know, I've always been willing. I think this is a critical part of childcare service, a critical part of having not just functioning town government, school functioning, you know, functioning community really. And I'm actually not unwilling to invest in it. But it has to be sort of what we actually need it to be, not what it's convenient to be for the existing organization.
Right. I mean, and I get the challenges, right? There's 22 kids, they only have 22 students. And how many hours can you be open for 22 students who don't go every day? I get that too. So my other, I had a couple other questions. One was, can you explain the new position at the library?
So that was proposed by Mr. Farwell, an aid in succession planning. That was going to be 30 hours a week, approximately 48,000, that includes benefits. And you had asked about, I think in the first meeting we presented kind of what the staffing levels had been in the past, right? Do you remember? So they average around 4 points, like full-time equivalent employees, 4.7, with some slight fluctuation there. So Are you asking about why it didn't make it into the budget or just wanting to know more about?
No, I was just curious. I was just curious what the position was.
Yep, it's, if you think they've got the assistant director now, it would be under that. So it's kind of just building that transition, you know, path.
If I recall correctly, and please, are your legs long enough to kick me under the table if I'm wrong? If I recall correctly, Bob was talking about his own, at some point he is going to retire.
Yeah.
And at some point, someone is going to become the new librarian. And it would be great from a blue sky perspective to have the additional staff person there before that happens. And that was, I think, viewed as a wonderful idea, but optional in the budget environment in which we're working. Is that fair?
That definitely. Yes,
Yeah,
more than-
I don't have a problem with that.
No, I
I
knew
mean,
you
I
didn't,
would
but
not have
that
to
was,
say
of
that,
course you watched.
Yeah, but, so is this like a position that would sunset, or is it, no, it would stay in?
That, yeah, I believe that's the idea, to always have, that level of training there.
Got it.
The director, the assistant director, and then the
So this is
associate
more
right
than
under.
likely a position that somebody in-house is going to move up to, and then they'll hire down at the bottom.
Right, that would be the idea.
Okay, I guess that was my real question. All right. And then my other thing I wanted to ask about was what Keith, you had brought up about potentially doing a study for housing and
The housing needs assessment, yes.
a housing needs assessment. So I just wanted to say that I love that idea. I think one of the problems, well, I mean, you just have to be on bulletin board, right? To like know what a problem housing is and, without calling out like real people at a meeting, there's tons of them that we all know, people who are going to leave the island if they don't find housing. And that's the most dire situation, but we all also know people who are living in really not substandard, but places that don't really suit their needs as well as they would want to be living here year round. And except everything is anecdotal, everything is on bulletin board. We do have a list that migrates around, and I would love it if we could do an assessment, a real assessment of what we need. What do people really need? Like, I mean, your employees at the sewer plant, right? You guys have some housing, sewer plant, water company, the power company is buying some housing, which I think is fabulous, but it's all scattershot. And I think we really do need to have a comprehensive idea of who's living here year round, who's fine in their housing. Maybe, like I don't need a new house, right? But who does need a better living situation, and what do they need, and what is necessary? What are the price points people can afford with the jobs that they have? We're looking at this school project, which is, tons of money. But do we have any idea how many children we're going to have in the school? Do we need a new school? I mean, I think that's a real question we have to ask before we move forward with some of these things, right? We're building 16 units of housing right now. They're all 2-bedroom. Is 2-bedroom what we need? We don't even know. I think it's great. I'm not knocking it. I am excited about 16 2-bedroom units, but how many people really needed 1-bedroom, and how many really need 3 bedrooms? And how many people can afford it? Nantucket has a housing board, which I read their things all the time. It seems like it works really well. And they sort of like envelope in all these things. So I think we really do need to be taking in like the new state regulations for accessory units, and how does that impact this situation, or does it impact it, or not at all? How do our 513s work in conjunction with this? What sort of housing could we build? Should we build? What sort of restrictions should we have on housing so that it works for us for the longest span of time? And, then the other thing they do through the Nantucket Housing Board is once you go through their application process, they have you sign up for classes. So if you go through their application process and you say, I have this job, my partner has this job, we make this much money, then you take a mortgage class and you take the class on like, how do you apply for a mortgage and do you even qualify for a mortgage? Because if we're going to build housing that people can buy, they need at least 2 years out to be planning that in their own situation. Like it's something that people need. We have a lot of people here who don't claim all their income, right? I'm not calling anybody out on that, but like if you aren't claiming all your income, you are not going to get a mortgage. And they need to understand that in black and white from somebody teaching a mortgage class. So I feel like we need to have a lot more structure around this if we want to keep our community functioning and we want to have kids in the school and we want to have kids at the early learning center and we want to have families working here and living here and playing pickleball and doing all these things that we want to have in our community. I think this would be a really, really smart place to start. So we could get this like data. We need data. We need to know like maybe nobody wants to live here. I don't think that's true, but.
Can I say something real quick? And this is a personal opinion, and I know you're trying to get to your game. So I'll be brief. I feel like when you look at the last 3 big housing projects, the groups of people that were left, there were very few candidates left. I feel like that speaks to, do we need more to build more houses? I think we need rentals. People need rentals. And even if there's not people saying right now that they'll move into them, that opens up the market for people to come from the mainland. There's rentals available for them. I would be worried about throwing $100,000 towards a consultant who doesn't really know Block Island. And I don't know how they would get those answers of exactly.
Did you see the housing needs assessment in Nantucket? It was quite good.
No. Yeah.
It's quite good.
I believe
and
you.
they got really into the community, which I think is like in some respects the most important part of it, so that it's not anecdotal, so that it is like, Keith, what do you know, what's going on in your life? What do you need? And it's not our job to provide everybody with a house. It's our job to have a sustainable, ongoing community.
Right.
But right now, we do it based upon what financial model works for 8 units on the west side, or we do it based on, there's a piece of land we need to do something. All of which I'm not criticizing anything that's been built, but this is a real issue. Housing is a real issue. It's an existential issue in my opinion. But we don't have any data about what we need. Do we need 10 one-bedroom rentals? Maybe that's what we need. And I mean, part of the problem is we're so microscopic, compared to other places. But I don't know. I was joking the other night. I think you were here, Mona. Like, if somebody came up to me with a check for $5 million and said, do housing, I don't know where I'd start. I don't know.
But I agree with you that rental housing is so necessary. And I mean, like, full disclosure, my son is renting one of the Thomas apartments. It is so fabulous. It is so great. every time I go over there, I think it's so great that we have a librarian and a police officer and a school teacher and a water company employee there. They're all paying rent to the town. It seems like it's working really, really well. The homes are nice, the apartments are nice. Um, you know, it's great. It's great. And I just wish more people had that,
Mhm.
right? Um, but we don't seem to be able to grasp like who needs that and like you're saying, how strong is the need, right? I'm not sure any of those people in the I have no idea. I'm not going to speak for them, but like I don't know how many of them would want to buy a house. I think if you're like I think at least some of them are happy renting a house or an apartment. So but it supports the community, right? Those are people with who are, you know, could have kids in the school and um they've got a home where they can have a dog and it's all really, really good. How do we assess how much more of that do we need?
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it would be a really good thing. I think what we're doing is very scattershot. So
Keith, can I just ask you to resend that, the Nantucket survey study? You said that you sent it last time. It
Yes.
never came through, so I wasn't able to send it to
didn't.
anyone. I just forgot about it till this moment.
Oh, gosh. Sorry about that. Yes.
I think some data would be good, and I think we do have some data from the housing board, and that's been collected in different agencies. I'm not against a study being done. I just think we're kind of at the 11th hour here, and I have a lot of reservations about putting $80,000 or $100,000. First of all, I don't know where we're going to get it, what we have proposed here into that. I think that we should do a little more, define a scope, do a little more study, and then see what our needs are, and then go forward with it. I have hesitation allocating the money at the 11th hour. It's not the
So-
concept.
I had a question too. Where did the number of $100,000 come from?
It's actually less than that is what is.
I mean, I heard that at the last meeting.
That was the maximum.
Okay. I just wasn't sure where that number came from.
And those numbers were just kind of like based off of what Nantucket had.
Yeah.
Correct, Keith? It wasn't
Yep.
yeah. I'd like to look at I mean, you've talked about the plan quite a bit. It sounds like it's very thorough. I'd like to take a
Yeah,
look at it.
take a look at it.
I just think where we're at with our budget at this time.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Yeah, no,
obviously.
I understand.
You know,
Yeah.
I think giving up a year is, you know, it's another year, another year, another year. I think taking a year to gather data so that we can sit as a council and figure out what the roadmap is. What are the needs? What are we going to do for the next 10 years? That's the way normal businesses do things and normal, you know what I mean? Like we got to figure this stuff out together.
I just wonder too, I mean, when the school comes forward with their proposal, like, somebody's going to have a hard time convincing me that we should spend that much money if we have no idea how many children could possibly be out there, because we have no idea how many families are out there and at what age they are, like,
And whether they have stable housing.
and whether they have stable housing. I mean, the first thing you do when you have a baby is you move from Block Island. I don't know. I mean, the year my oldest daughter was born, there were 22 children born. She graduated from the Block Island School in a class of 6. So I'm just saying, not every class is that extreme. But I would like to think that we could offer a better situation so that we could have a better underpinning for the community, because I want people to stay. Also, our population is 1/10 the size of Nantucket. So if they spend $100,000 on this, I don't know how we could possibly spend that. So,
Anybody else? Any other budget stuff tonight? Did we close the public
So
hearing?
so
We
where
did.
does this?
I'm sorry. I wasn't, I just couldn't remember whether we had done
I think we had.
that.
So where does this go from here?
I
I mean,
think we,
we're getting close to the
to me,
clock, aren't we?
you know, we're going to approve the budget on Thursday. I'd like this to be in it.
I'm in favor of the concept, just for the record, but I'm not in favor of budgeting a number that doesn't have, you know, we don't have a, it's just it's an arbitrary number. I just don't think we need to figure out a scope, a little more research, what it is, and then go from there.
Thank you. Other?
Agreed. No, I agree with what Bill said. The scope of this project, Molly said a lot of, what Molly, I want the 10,000-foot view. I don't need to spend 80,000 to tell you that the average household here, is under the $300,000 a year, that's where they need to be in the Block Island housing pool. And, Mona, is it really rentals? And this study, is it going to do all that, or is it
That's,
strictly going to be
that's the idea.
residential?
Well, take a look at this one. I didn't realize that it didn't get through last week, but you should take a look at it, because it gives you on several levels the roadmaps that they did. And I was really impressed with it. It's something we don't have. It's something we've never done. It's new. And I think, I actually think we have a community that has a community, and there are individuals who would be very willing to contribute to, to building out our, housing infrastructure. But I can't answer the first question that they'll ask, which is,
The needs.
yeah, how'd you decide that you needed 8 one-bedroom rentals? I can't answer that. I don't think any of us can.
Well, we're very reactionary. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
medical center, it's the police.
Yeah.
That was, fortunate from Conley Estate, which was a nice donation, but we're reactionary on the housing.
Yeah.
So looking long-term, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But like Bill said, we
I-
get the scope of this project and get a hard number. To your point, Molly, I mean, you got basically 50,000 people and we're 1,000, 1,500.
right.
You know,
And yet we can only
2,000 homes on-
anecdotally say that like pretty soon the only person who can cut prosciutto isn't going to live here anymore. And, that's a loss, for sure. And for a million other reasons. But I'm just saying, like, people who've lived here for a really long time are going to move. And they're going to move for different reasons. They're going to move because they're sick and tired of moving twice a year. They don't have a place for year round that accommodates their needs. They have a baby and they just can't, people just can't move twice a year anymore when they have a baby. It doesn't work.
I think everybody's in on the housing thing. This is just a first step to gather, develop the data and plan, so that we can plan and have a better sense and better answers to questions. Because as I said, I mean, I've had people approach me. I'm sure all of us have people like, what can we do? Well, I can't give them a good faith answer when it comes to housing. I know that we need it. I feel my gut feeling is not data.
My thing is, we're in the budget with this. Where would this money come from, and how much money are we talking about? And is there any other sources that might be able to you know,
Well,
be
what-
able to.
I mean, for two things. One is the overall increase in this budget is under the cap. So we can decide to
There's
spend
space
another
in this budget for
$1,000.
this.
But the other thing is, I'm not gonna look to other people to fund something that we ought to fund. We ought to fund this. It's, we're talking about whatever, 75, 80, $100,000 to get a handle on something so that we can go to people who might be willing to contribute and say, look, we need to do something. That's my opinion. I mean, I think this is a legitimate town expense.
So there's the other thing, Bill, I would say is like, there's other numbers we don't know. There's other data we don't have. Like, we throw around this number all the time about how there's 20,000 people a day here on Block Island in the summer. And Nina Stack will tell you that she hired a firm to get that number when she was the Tourism Council director 30 years ago. So we throw around that number like it's some accurate number. It's not an accurate number. It's a 30-year-old number that we use we use a Groundhog's Day number to tell us how many people live here in the winter. None of these are accurate numbers, right? So, is it more important to know how many people who live here need housing and what sort of housing they need? Or is it more important to know how many people are here on a summer day? I don't know. We need all these numbers, but I think this one is the most important one because we need our community to stay. We need to have some sort of a goal to set up towards. And I mean, I messaged someone the other day about housing. They have a 513 and I heard that their tenant was moving out. So I messaged them and I was like, well, I know somebody else who needs housing, if you have a list. And they were like, we're thinking about abandoning that use now. And which I totally get too, right? But that's a loss of a year-round housing unit. Where are we accounting for that? There's no place in which we keep track of all this. And I think that's a problem. It's a problem. So.
It's not that the data wouldn't be useful, it's just, what's the number? What do we,
It's $100,000.
Well, I definitely object to 100,000.
Okay.
Into the budget.
Yep.
But let me finish.
Yeah.
I definitely object to that because we're throwing out an arbitrary number based on Nantucket, which has anywhere between 7 and 35,000 people on that. So I think because Nantucket paid $100,000 for us to go out and say, hey, let's put $100,000 in the budget because of that, I don't think that's responsible. I think that if this is something we truly have, we should have at least find have a budgetary number that reflects what our objective would have been, or what our the structure of what we're looking to have done. And that's all. I don't, whether it's the Coast Guard station, whether it's this, I don't like just throwing a number out there with not something to support it. That's all. The concept, I think we all agree on, I'd feel better if we said, hey, listen, from a budgetary place, we've talked to 2 or 3 people and this is the range we're looking at, but we don't even know what the scope of is what we want. I think we have to do that homework. I mean, that's our responsibility to the taxpayers. That's all. Before we.
Reluctant to put a number out there. But that doesn't mean I can't spend the next few days making calls and talking to people.
That would probably be helpful. It would give a.
Yeah.
Do you agree, Keith? At least
Yeah.
we know, number from that range.
Happy to do that and see what I can come
Great.
up with.
Thank you. What else we got?
Budget-wise, that was all that, I think we had
that
gone over
it?
it pretty well last.
Okay,
time. I
good.
think Molly did you have anything else, Molly, on the budget? Did you have anything else on the budget?
No, those are my things.
Good. And Bill, if you have anything else, let me know.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay,
If I could
don't-
get a copy of that report, I'd love to.
She's supposed
Yeah.
to, she was supposed to be sent last week. Sorry.
No problem.
I can't send it. You know, you know. All right. We adjourned the public hearing. We talked about the budget. Dylan, do you want to give us, oh, Pete,
I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me.
we can hear you. Have at it. Tell us about what you got to do.
Oh, we got all kinds of things to do. I was gonna let Dylan speak to it because he's got the latest and greatest that we spoke about today. And I was gonna comment on the side a little bit. And but we've got some things going on at the sewer plant. We have some a new mandate that came in from the DEM that is requiring us to do some inspections that we haven't done on the sewer outflow. And it's basically been kicked around by Mother Nature for the last 50 plus years. And we haven't looked at the insides of her. And so DEM is saying, well, we need to do that. I suspect they may have had some issues somewhere else in the state. But the bottom line is we need to do it. So we had, I think you have some numbers in front of you, and that came from Jim Jeremiah. And we need to take some proactive action and get this done and budgeted. And so that's what we'd like you guys to consider. All right, Dylan, I spoke longer than I should have, so
Thank you, Pete.
You.
Thank you, Pete.
Thanks, Pete. So what I want to just make clear, there's no expectation to get on this year's docket. However, I
Okay.
do want you all to understand that the number that's reflected in Mr. Jeremy's letter is a realistic price tag, considering the nature and scope of the work, the environmental hazard of it, the logistics of working on the outfall. This is worst case scenario. Much like was discussed on earlier topics tonight, we need to do further investigation to understand the true scope and nature of the work that needs to be done. It's going to be a challenge to investigate the interior of that pipe. There are definitely operational challenges in that. It's flooded with seawater.
Sure.
We're running 24/7, constantly pumping out. So there's going to be some challenges in trying to set all that up. But
Can I ask a financial question?
sure.
I know that on water items, USDA has been a critical part of that funding. Is that, I'm not saying USDA, I just, are there
So I
funding
think
opportunities for?
that's on the table.
Gotcha.
We're looking to meet with USDA. I've spoken with Jim in that regard.
Uh-huh. It is USDA I wasn't sure whether it
there's a
would
number
be.
of funding sources, SRF. I don't know if anyone's going to meet the price tag
Sure.
that we have there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And the regional allocation is lower than that, but I do want everyone to be aware of that number. I think transparency is an important just component of this as we move forward, that we continue to have this discussion. The sewer plant in general is coming up in 50 years old. You got clarifiers, you got aeration tanks, you got all sorts of things going on. But, refining our focus to the outfall, the consequence of failure would be critical and catastrophic.
So Dylan, let me ask you a question. If that failed or there was a blockage, how long could you run the plant before we have an issue
Depends on the time.
environmentally, like overflow?
That depends on the time.
Okay, let's just say winter.
Winter, we would divert flow to a number of other basins. I could buy us
Week?
significant,
Days?
I would say days we would have a bypass set up, there would be alternative measures that I think have occurred in the past, that I wasn't present for. But we would implement a bypass at that point. Should a catastrophic failure happen. We are trying to get ahead of that.
Right.
I
Yeah, you
think-
spoke to that at
Mhm.
your previous
Yeah,
meeting. That's
yeah.
paying attention.
Absolutely. So that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
The consequence of anything failing in the sewer plant is significant. You know, we can't maintain redundancy on everything. We can't have two outfalls. We can't have two clarifiers. At least it's just not practical
Sure.
for our population. So anyway, this is for your information only. I do want you to read the report, and just understand that down the road, we're going to have to come back. The numbers will be refined,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully lower, but at this point, we don't know what we don't know.
When's that time frame, Dylan, that Jim hopes to have a better idea of?
So we are mandated, the DEM we had a meeting today, and they have a requirement that by the end of this year, we are to investigate the interior of that. However, we managed to do that is still an ongoing discussion, whether we cut into it, float down a balloon plug, remove the diffusers, we coffer dam, de-water out. There's about 1,000 feet from Spring Street, give or take, to the end of that outfall.
It needs to be inspected.
Yeah, and it poses some challenges. There's a significant slope there, So conventional methods are not practical, not feasible. So that's what the issue I've been having. We've looked at sonar technologies. We've looked at other aspects of different technologies to try to get it done. Robotics has advanced. I'm looking into alternatives there as well. I do have a number of discussions ongoing with different colleges.
What do you anticipate your cost is just for the review of this?
The cost for the review?
Yeah. I mean, is it something you've budgeted? Is it?
It depends. It depends on what we settle on.
Yeah.
And I'm not comfortable saying that at this point. I think that is going to become clear. I do feel as though I am comfortable putting a number down through our budget process, and not seeking funding for that. I'm also comfortable with proposing that we look at doing a lot of the preliminary engineering for the outfall prior to going to USDA. Right. So there's a lot that we can do on our end to be proactive, and that's what we're going to try to do.
You run a fabulous operation there. You really do. And I think everybody in town appreciates the work you do. So, you're among friends here. These are things that
Thank you. I appreciate
that need to be done.
Yeah, they do.
But,
so, here we are. Thank you for listening.
So no warrant this year.
No warrant this year. Information.
Dylan, one of the things, Jim's been really good also. He's been on a meeting, he's brought this up to us that it's coming down the pike. There's two projects. There's this and there's the revetment down at the transfer station. That they're big numbers. They're not pretty. They're not fun projects. You don't get a shiny nickel or anything out of them. But I think it's really important, whether it be also through the paper, so forth, that you keep this out, that, hey, this is coming down the pike. So it's not a surprise.
The conversation matters, transparency matters.
Yeah.
Ratepayers deserve to know.
Right.
The public deserves to know and to be part of the conversation.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan.
Can I add one thing to that?
Of course you can.
Which is just to let the council know that we're also both on this project and the West Beach revetment, but this one seems more viable. Our congressional delegation is also wrapped into this so that they know we're facing this challenge, and their staff is actively keeping eyes out for potential opportunities. And we've identified a couple. They haven't panned out yet, but we've got that going on in the background as well.
And I'm going to ask you later on in our conversation when we talk about the sea level money, the bond that they want to put to the state. if there's any funding through that. So when we get to that,
Yep.
I'll add that in also.
Those are cool reading glasses.
Hmm?
Those are cool reading glasses.
Yeah. Benjamin
I
Franklin.
like those. Amy? Legislative update? Oh,
Just,
Pete,
Pete,
thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah, man. Well, we just want to keep everybody in the loop. So we're, Dylan and I've been speaking about this, seems like all week long. And he's like, look, I got a spot on the agenda. I said, well, that's where we want to be. So that's where we're at.
Great. Thank you, Pete.
I would appreciate
Good
your
night.
Yeah, we'll see you.
so on the legislative front, things are obviously starting to move on the moped license retirement. So this is our bill. The House bill has been introduced that's going to be heard on Thursday. We will be here. So Rick and Jeff will handle any questions and putting together some materials for them. The Senate bill has been introduced, but I don't have a number yet. I think it just came in.
So we won't have anyone for us to be able to speak at that.
We'll have May 4th on our behalf, but
Okay. They'll testify on
Yep.
behalf.
Item C is just an FYI. This is a bill that they indicate isn't likely to have traction, but it's an interesting one. And if anyone gets a chance to read it, it talks about making a distinction between owner-occupied and non-owner-occupied short-term rentals and treating some as residential and treating others as commercial properties. For us, we have identical tax rates for residential and commercial. If that ever changed for us or in other communities where there's a differential, this is one of those meaningful bills that I'm not sure people understand fully.
Well, the zoning implications
Is
are.
like I said,
Oh, yeah.
it's not likely to gain traction this year, but it may continue to resurface and starts to really tie in a lot of different places that the state's tracking around residency and occupancy and use and all those things. So I just wanted to let you know, all know that was out there. I don't really have too many updates on the rest until we get down to tick-borne illnesses. But if anyone has questions before we get there.
Yeah, actually I do. On that minimum off-street parking, will that have an impact on us as far as the zoning?
It will. And so, if there's consensus and people want to put together a resolution in opposition, it will have an impact. Yeah. How many? It's hard to say. It's almost impossible to quantify.
This, correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to recall that there are municipalities who use parking requirements as a way to limit development.
Yes. And so
So how
we
is
want to
it?
be careful in how we position ourselves if we did want to oppose it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying we should. I guess I would
No,
refer over to our building department and to see their stance, recommendation. That's all.
Yeah, they have concerns about, given our limited parking in the downtown commercial area, it's purely going to exacerbate that problem that already exists.
So this bill basically would allow you to have less parking is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And then I was curious, and maybe we can ask, Rick, on the recreation vehicles. When you read through that, it's pretty lengthy, and I've read through it in detail. One of the ones that concerns me in there is the part about the use of the, like that's the scooter that has the ball, like but in this, it talks about use but these things could be used on public sidewalks. I just think we should take a look at that and make sure that, and I thought, but I wasn't sure I was reading it right, there's a provision in there that allows the municipality to put an ordinance that would restrict that. I'd want to make sure, because I would hate to see sidewalks become okay for the electric bikes and the electric scooters and everything else with that, since we have so few anyways.
I can follow up on that one and see if there's clarity around.
Thank you for taking the time to read that.
Yeah,
'Cause
so-
I didn't, and now I'm looking at it. It's,
Yeah.
we got to make sure what
It-
this
it-
means for us.
And it's one of those, there's some things that it's a good bill. There's things about, about the age for the e-bikes and the helmets on the kids and, the different classifications. So there's a lot of good stuff in it. We just have
Yeah.
to, I think we're a little unique where, we have to fine tune to make sure some of those things work for us. And, and I'm glad to see them make some approach on this because like I said before, these electric scooters or bicycles, they're motorcycles. There's no question about it. And, you don't need a license to drive them. They go as fast, they accelerate the same amount. And my concern is, and they're not required to be registered, and I had said this before, my concern is that that means they don't have to be inspected and they don't have to have insurance. So anyways, that's definitely why I think it's worth us work and keep an eye on that. And then on that non-occupied owner, the non-owner occupied property tax, any update as to where that stands?
Not at the moment. Well, I guess to say to the public, I can't remember if we've done this at a meeting or not. You should check out the Division of Taxation, State of Rhode Island Division of Taxation website, which is now live on their page for non-owner occupied property tax. They have FAQs and they have a public webinar tomorrow, the 8th, sorry, the 8th, if people want to ask questions.
One of the other questions I had on this, and I don't know procedural wise, I'm just throwing this out there. If this does not have traction, our opposition, to it and doesn't, is it worth, or is there any consideration to see if a bill couldn't be put in that would raise the level from 1 million to, just like they do with the federal state tax, to would be 4 million or 5 million or whatever that might be as a fallback if one should fail. Because if you're truly looking at those super wealthy homes, what the intent was, the way properties have changed and everything, it's a low grab. So I don't know if you can do two of the same. I don't know how it works, but could you at least explore that with Rick and see if that's
I mean, you have pretty straightforward houses in Providence selling for $1 million.
right.
I think I told you we had, as a result of revaluation, likely have 275 properties cross over the $1 million threshold.
Right.
That's,
And so I think, and I think in the average person thinks, okay, the super wealthy house that isn't occupied, the Bellevue and so forth. The federal, state taxes moved to what, 15 million or whatever to adjust for reality. So I think that number, especially because it's not based on like a mill rate, I think on that number, if that's what the intent was, I think that number is too low. I just don't know if we or someone else could introduce an amendment that have a threshold if it weakens our other part, which I don't have a lot of hope for anyways, but.
I will bring that question up again. I've raised it before and
Okay.
there wasn't a lot of appetite, but I'll raise it again.
Can we put in more than one or does it kind of? Again, I have no idea the way the system works.
was there no appetite because people didn't want to compromise, or no appetite because they didn't think that solved the problem? You know what I mean?
A little bit of both. And we left it in our most recent conversation about holding on to firm opposition as opposed to
Right.
As opposed to
compromise.
limiting damage.
But I can revisit that. Yeah.
I guess my case is I like us having hold firm, but I'd rather have some pie than no pie.
Yeah.
And we get the legislative update from League of Cities and Towns, and they say contact to have a bill and so forth. I'm really disappointed that we're not getting the backing from them on this.
I will say they've moved on this.
Oh, good.
The league has moved.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the legislators.
Well, the
have
league
been-
is a start, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that, have they moved their?
They
position
haven't,
on this?
I don't believe they've actually taken a position, but they are participating, listening and learning in a way that they were not interested in doing last year.
Thank you. And I'll leave this H to.
We just had this
you.
guy come before the meeting. I don't know whether you guys are here, but we were talking to him. He was here looking for information about the non-owner occupied tax
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was asking
Relevant,
good
yeah.
questions, but it's sort of like that kind of sums up a part of this that drives me crazy. It's not our tax.
Well, and he said, it's a property tax and that's the purview of the town,
Yeah,
right?
right. Yes.
Well, and I think, and he's one of the first out of the gate. Once these bills come out, you're gonna see a lot of them from that end of it,
Yeah.
you know, and it isn't because we haven't done what we can on that end of it, but there is a lot of confusion to it, and I think, again, Keith, there's a Zoom meeting this week on
Mhm.
April
The 8th.
the 8th.
Yeah.
Encourage anyone who might be anywhere near affected by this, whoever's listening besides Annie and Dave out there, but you really should tune in because I think it'll be informative. Keith, did you have the, on that H?
Yes. So I did both email and I think there are hard copies as well. Share a proposal that Jeff helped put together, which would be a tool to implement the town's position, asking for relief from the typical DEM regulations around hunting on Block Island. So this is a framework by which we can make a proposal, request exemptions, and then DEM can presumably evaluate that. And it all works within the system a little bit differently than, yes, a little bit differently than just saying we need to be excluded from all regulation. It's a little bit more of a, something we might get them to sign on to.
You did that?
Jeff did a lot of that work from May 4th. You know, some of the things that we really stressed as we drafted this was, again, the focus on the illness being the driver and that it's not necessarily related to population or density, but that the tools given the environment that we're in, the public health environment, change the dialogue. So if the council is supportive, either in aggregate or after doing some redlining, then I would suggest we hand this back to May 4th and to our legislators to start to run with.
I like the approach. It's nicely done.
I think the thing I really like about it is it's respectful to the DM
Yeah.
from their role,
Yep.
which I think is important from that end of it. And it clarifies out, we're not just bumping heads. This has been well thought through. And so I think this is, I've glanced over it quickly this afternoon, but in general, the concept I think is right on.
Great. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
You got what you need?
I think so.
Good.
So we'll run with that. Moving on to resolutions, if people are ready.
Yep.
This first one, Blue Wave Bond Bill 8151. This was a request from Representative Spears, who's a sponsor of this bill and has worked on resiliency, the resiliency plan, first of all, Resilient Rhody, and now moving that conversation from the plan into funding for resiliency throughout the state. So she asked if we would consider supporting this bill.
This is to get it on
This
ballot.
gets it on the ballot in November. Yes.
For a
Brings-
$100 million bond.
Yeah.
Resiliency. My question would be, I mean, I hate the word bond. I think they should say loan or mortgage, and I think people vote much differently. But my question would be, if we're talking about resiliency and so forth, do you think any of the revetment at the land transfer station, these funds we might be able to explore as a possibility, or even, the sewer plant.
That one I can't answer yet.
Yeah.
The revetment we actually talked about, I talked about with DEM and the Resilient Roadie team as they're finalizing the plan. It is unlikely that they can contribute directly to the revetment itself. What they do see as a potential point of collaboration is alongside that revetment work, what can be done today to make sure we're not in the exact same place 10 years from now. So we have to do the shoring up, but what other strategies can be implemented now from a, and they are likely to provide technical expertise as well as funding for additional strategies that I can't tell you what they are because we haven't done the work. Whether that's shoring up areas to the north or to the south or changing flow so that we're not revisiting the same loss to nature every 10 years. So that's an area where we may be able to apply for funding from this bond because that aspect is in the Resilient Roadie plan and that's part of our identified priorities.
So you're saying we may have to cover up what's there because that's what we've agreed to, but if we were to say, okay, we've covered that up, but we want to put a steel bulkhead in front of that, that would help, the erosion after that, they may fund something like that.
Some extension of the
Beyond
New
the
Harbor
scope we committed
breakwater
to.
would materially change the erosion pattern in a way that's beneficial.
It's
Barely
just-
making that.
It's just when I read through, because I read through the whole thing, and when I read through it, I was looking and saying, is there some, and a lot of times it's how creative a writer you have, that we could from that end of it. So, I mean, it's certainly something, because even if we have to do that, that problem's not gonna go away. right?
Exactly.
And we might get through this hurdle of it, but. 10
It's
to
how to
15 years
prevent
down
us
the
from
road.
being right back here over
Right.
the long term. So that's where, on that project, we would have opportunity. For
Right.
example.
And so this works where they're requesting that this be put on the, as a referendum.
Yeah.
And does that have legs of passing? Does Jeff or Rick?
I haven't asked that question directly. My sense is yes, but I can follow up with that
So you need a motion to approve this resolution?
if the council is supportive. Yep.
I have a motion. Second? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Right? Yeah, right, exactly.
And you said you didn't think the sewer line would though, huh, Amy? Or you don't,
But I can't speak to it yet.
Okay.
It didn't come up in our conversation.
but it's certainly something we would explore.
Yeah.
CRMC?
So this one, I believe the language is very similar to the resolution the council did last year. Is that accurate, Millie? Because the bill is substantially similar about restructuring CRMC to be likely a division of DEM. But this is not new in terms of a topic. And again, I can't say that it will be successful, but the town did lend its voice to the conversation last year.
This is to do what again?
So,
You wouldn't have the board, CRMC would be part of DE.
Okay, it's that, okay, I got it. I know
yeah,
what
it
you're
came
talking
out of the legislative committee.
Ish.
about. Yeah. And we were in support of it in the past, correct?
Yes, we were.
I'll make do you need a motion for that?
Yeah, can I have a
Yeah,
motion?
yeah, make a motion to
Second.
endorse.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it.
And then the last one, we've danced around this a lot, but a number of communities are expressing their challenges and dissatisfaction with the overwhelm and I don't want to use the word overreach, but intrusion of all of these zoning laws into their locally managed housing by signing on to a joint municipal statement regarding the 2025 affordable housing laws as a way of saying these collective zoning changes are undermining a local community's ability to manage their own zoning uses.
So you would look at something like the the ADU, the state ADU, as opposed to where we had it from that end of it.
Right.
Right. I
There's
can
some,
easily make a motion to support that if,
I'm not sure where I am on this, only because there's some people who've staked out some pretty crazy places on this.
what do you mean,
Um,
Keith?
There's some people who have staked, towns that have staked out some pretty extreme places
Oh.
on that. And I'd like to know who's in on this.
Sure.
You know what I mean? 'Cause some of these- yeah, I mean, I actually, the principles,
You
I
know,
guess.
I was only looking from ours. You have a
Yes.
good point, like Narragansett, for instance, you know, it had some
Well,
and,
yeah.
but
And
I was looking from how it affected us, but I'm definitely, you bring a good point. I'd like to see that too.
the Block Islander.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I was only looking through our.
Exactly. You and I are in the same place on that.
Narragansett.
We can find out who else is on this
Mm,
one and potentially put together some different language
Yeah.
that expresses our position more uniquely.
Yeah, and my quick out of the gate with that was because how it was affecting us on ours, and I think we're ahead of it, but it didn't, I think Keith brings up a good point.
Been
Look at
driving us
the,
crazy for 2 years. You know,
Yeah.
we had to rewrite. You know, it's not like I don't agree. It's just you know.
And once again, we're special.
Yes, of course.
I mean, really.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, not
We are.
every-
Yes,
They know that upstate, but. you know,
yes.
To drive the point home.
Certainly have heard it or not. Any items for future agendas?
I know Keith wants to get out of here. Keith, the only thing and we can even talk about it in May, doesn't need to be on the first one. I want to get back to the car rental or how many vehicles on a property. We talked about it. We didn't get good traction. And as I drive around, I said, my God, the problem's still there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you're
but
right.
maybe like I said, it doesn't have to be, but I think maybe sometime in May, and in the meantime,
Yeah.
we can revisit either through possibly through what zoning leverages we may have for amount of vehicles on
Yeah.
one piece of property.
Motion to adjourn? Favor?
Aye.